In 2015, a Chinese student named Helen Jai was arrested by Los Angeles police for kidnapping and abusing a classmate. She thought her actions were just playful teasing among classmates and assumed her parents would handle the situation for her, as they would in China. In court, she and her friends laughed out loud and even asked the judge to speed up the trial because she had a birthday party planned at home next month. Welcome to Red Eastern True Crime. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to my channel. Let's dive into this story. Behind a shopping mall in Roland Heights, Los Angeles, California, there is a private high school for grades 6 to 12 called Oxford High School. It consists of several portable classrooms and a small basic sports field. The majority of students at the school are international, primarily from China and South Korea, with Chinese students making up the majority. Most of these foreign students live with host families near the school, as their parents do not live in the United States. On March 26, 2015, a 16-year-old Chinese girl named Jia Mai from Oxford High School tried to stop her schoolmate Helen Jai from beating up her friend. Helen Jai threatened Mai, saying, "Get lost or I'll beat you up too." The next day, Mai and some friends were having a picnic at Roland Heights Park when Helen Jai and two others showed up and slapped her face. When people in the park asked what was going on, Helen Jai and her friends drove Mai to the Roland Heights Diamond Plaza. In a secluded corner, they continued to beat her for an hour. One of the accomplices told Mai, "We're beating you because you interfered with Helen Jai yesterday. It's disrespectful to her." Throughout the ordeal, Helen Jai continued to make threats, saying, "I'll remember this. Don't even think about calling the police. My family has money and connections. We might kill you one day." Mai was very scared. She didn't tell her teachers or her host family about the incident and hid her injuries to avoid being seen. During her time at Oxford School, Helen Jai physically assaulted many of her female classmates, all of whom were Chinese and from mainland China. She never provoked local or Korean students, nor did she bully students from Hong Kong and Taiwan. Helen Jai would resort to violence because of a look, a word, an attitude toward her, or simply because she did not like someone, or even because of her bad mood. On the evening of March 29, 2015, just 2 days after Mai's assault, Camelia Liu received a WeChat message from her former and current classmate, Wangqing Liu, asking her to meet at a drink shop in Roland Heights Diamond Plaza. Camelia Liu had been assaulted by this classmate before and was worried. To avoid any mishap, she asked her male friend Liu to accompany her, and they went there. Upon arrival, they encountered Helen Jai, who asked Liu to leave, saying, "We girls need to discuss something." Liu left as instructed. Helen Jai then called several Chinese students, including Coco Yang. Together, they drove Camelia Liu to a secluded area in Roland Heights Park and assaulted her. During the attack, they smashed Camelia Liu's cell phone, repeatedly slapped her, and ordered her to kneel. They also used high heels to kick her in the head and body, doused her with cold water, and forcibly removed her clothes and threw them in a nearby trash can. Coco Yang burned Camelia Liu's nipples several times with a cigarette, and another student tried to ignite her hair with a lighter, but it failed because it had been soaked in cold water before. Helen Jai then asked her new boyfriend, John Zhang, to get a pair of scissors from home. After receiving them, Helen Jai instructed someone to cut Camelia Liu's hair. They forced Camelia Liu to eat her own cut hair and to eat sand by tying her to the sand, which almost suffocated her. A total of 12 people, all Chinese students, were involved in the torture of Camelia Liu. The torture lasted from about 7 p.m. until the early hours of the next day, 5 full hours. Throughout the ordeal, they were constantly taking pictures and videos with their cell phones. As a result of the abuse, Camelia Liu's face was swollen and bruised. Her hair was disheveled, and she had difficulty standing. Despite this, Helen Jai demanded that she drive and drop off 3 attackers, including the one who had asked her out. Before leaving, Helen Jai didn't forget to threaten Camellia Liu, saying, "If anyone asks, just say it was your friend Liu who hit you. All 12 of us can prove it. If you say we hit you, no one will believe you." After returning to her host family with injuries, Camellia Liu's guardian noticed and called the police. On March 30th, 2015, police in the Roland Heights community of Los Angeles, California, received a call. They conducted a physical examination and took photographs of Camellia Liu. They also collected evidence and investigated the scene. Soon after, the police arrested 6 suspects, the 3 main culprits being Helen Zhai, Coco Yang, and John Zhang, while the other 3 were minors. Those arrested didn't think it was a big deal. They believed that as long as they didn't confess, there would be no witnesses who could support Camellia Liu. They thought their parents could spend some money and use their connections to get them released quickly. 4 of the 6 arrested were even sleeping at home on the afternoon of their arrest, because they had gone to a nightclub to have fun after harassing Camellia Liu the day before. Helen Jai was born into a wealthy family in Beijing in 1996. She was 19 years old at the time of the incident. Her parents spoiled her, and she never had to worry about money. However, they were often busy, so she lacked companionship. She had a strong personality from an early age and formed her group of friends in elementary school, often bullying her classmates and getting in trouble with teachers. Her parents tried to discipline her, even cutting off her allowance, but it didn't make a difference. When she was 14, her parents learned that many Chinese parents send their children to school abroad to develop independence and broaden their horizons. So they sent Helen to the United States. Her life in the US was difficult at first. Her poor English made it hard for her to make friends, and she rarely spoke to anyone. Every time she spoke to her parents, she cried and expressed her desire to return home. Unwilling to integrate into local life or make an effort to learn English, her language skills remained poor after 5 years, and she mostly hung out with other Chinese students. Helen Jai changed schools and host families several times and had several boyfriends. She liked to show off her relationships and luxury cars on social media, but none of her relationships lasted long. She even hurt herself after a difficult breakup. After transferring to Oxford School, Helen Jai met John Zhang and Coco Yang, and the 3 quickly became friends. John Zhang became her new boyfriend. The previously lonely Helen Jai regained her confidence and became domineering, known as a bully who was feared by other Chinese students at the school. Helen Jai was easily angered and often used foul language on social media and in her speech. However, she showed more respect for white teachers and looked down on her mainland Chinese classmates, especially the girls. In April 2015, the 3 main suspects didn't seem to realize the seriousness of their actions and the consequences they were facing. In court, they were carefree and even made lighthearted remarks. Helen Jai even asked the judge to speed things up because she had a birthday party planned at home in June. The judge set bail at $3 million for the 3 suspects, who were 18 years old. A record for bail amounts for international students. They were to be charged with kidnapping, assault, and torture, and could face life in prison. When the parents, who had flown in from China, learned of the seriousness of the case through translators, they were shocked. The court held closed hearings for the other 3 suspects, ages 15 to 18. Upon hearing the news, the remaining 6 suspects quickly bought tickets back to China. When the police went to arrest them, they found that the suspects had already left the country. However, the prosecutor still filed charges against these 6 individuals, who are now blacklisted. If they ever set foot in the United States, they will be arrested unless they choose never to enter the country for the rest of their lives. John Zhang's father complained outside the courtroom that his son had been wrongly accused. He claimed that his son only helped someone get a pair of scissors and did not cut Camellia Liu's hair or physically harm her. The parents of the 3 underage suspects also stated that their children were only present and did not physically participate in any way, and expressed their lack of understanding regarding the charges. On June 3, 2015, the case was heard at the Pomona Superior Court in California. The victim, Camelia Liu, testified about the assault and mentioned that she had been assaulted by Helen Zhai a year before the incident. 2 weeks before the incident, she was assaulted by others, and Helen Zhai was also present. When asked why she still met with them, knowing she would be assaulted, she said she couldn't avoid it. They would block her at the school gate, and the assault would be worse. Media reports suggested that Camelia Liu may have been John Zhang's ex-girlfriend, which further fueled Helen Zhai's animosity toward her. In court, Helen Zhai acted extremely arrogant, showing anger, mockery, and contempt toward the victim, witnesses, and even the audience and reporters present. During Camelia Liu's testimony, she glared at her with a fierce look. She also frequently whispered to the interpreter about the testimony of the witnesses. The judge couldn't stand it any longer and abruptly stopped the trial and warned Helen Zhai, who softened her demeanor. The judge expressed disbelief at the horrific torture in this case, comparing it to the novel Lord of the Flies, about a group of British boys stranded on a desert island and left to govern themselves, with disastrous results. On the morning of the trial, the father of one of the minor suspects was arrested by the police. He was arrested for trying to bribe a witness to testify in favor of his daughter before the trial. He could have been charged with perjury. However, in light of his recent arrival in the United States and other factors, the prosecutor ultimately dropped the charges against him. After the trial, Helen Zhai, Coco Yang, and John Zhang each pleaded not guilty through their lawyers. Helen Zhai even tried to use her previous suicide attempt to exonerate herself. However, after a court evaluation, it was determined that she was fully responsible for her actions at the time of the incident. In January 2016, after a series of discussions, lawyers for the 3 main perpetrators, Helen Zhai, Coco Yang, and John Zhang, finally reached an agreement with prosecutors to plead guilty. They accepted charges of kidnapping and assault. As part of the plea bargain, prosecutors dropped the torture charges against the 3. Did Helen Zhai really believe she was guilty when she pleaded guilty? She knew that if she didn't plead guilty, she could face a sentence of 25 years to life on the torture charge, which could result in life imprisonment. In the end, Helen Zhai was sentenced to 13 years for kidnapping and assault. Coco Yang was sentenced to 10 years, and John Zhang was sentenced to 6 years. After serving their sentences, they will be deported and banned from re-entering the United States. All 3 have said they accept the verdict and will not appeal. Helen Zhai's lawyer read her letter of remorse, in which she mentioned that living alone in the United States had given her too much freedom, which was one of the reasons for her criminal actions. She also planned to study English hard while in prison.
As I said, I am not a bad kid. If I am judged by the 2 days out of my 19 years that got me into so much trouble, I must look like the worst person in the world. I have read that I am hated here and in China. I probably deserve to be viewed in that way. But the other and better side of me is a person who tried to help other people. While in jail, I have helped others learn better English and even Spanish. I have received honors from the jail for my studies. I want to thank my parents for helping me through this part of my life, especially my mother, who has traveled back and forth from China to visit me in jail. They sent me to the United States for a better life and a fuller education. Along with that came a lot of freedom. In fact, too much freedom that I was not used to. In China, I was very obedient and cheerful living with my parents. Here I became lonely and lost.
In a later interview, John Zhang's father said that John had actively worked to reform himself while in prison. He realized his mistakes and completely stopped contacting Helen Zhai because he didn't want to be influenced by her. His English improved rapidly in prison, much faster than in school. By now, John Zhang should have been released from prison and returned to China. Teachers at Oxford High School were aware of the bullying on campus. There were several instances where teachers saw Helen Zhai threaten Camellia Liu and reported it to the school administration, but no action was taken against Helen Zhai. Other schools have penalties for bullying behavior, and in severe cases, students can even be sent back to their home countries. The Oxford school's actions clearly condoned a culture of bullying. This school enrolls mostly students from China and South Korea, with annual tuition reaching $13,000, so its focus may be on attracting more international students. This case has caused quite a stir in China and has been widely reported in the media. In China, bullying in schools is not considered a crime unless it results in death, and the police rarely get involved. A few years ago, it was easy to find bullying videos of middle school, college, and even elementary school students online. While such content is less common now, due to platform regulations, bullying itself has not decreased. In China, many parents view bullying as a normal part of childhood play rather than as intentional harm. Some parents of bullies believe that bullying can be tolerated as long as no major incidents occur. Parents of bullied children may advise them to fight back or to stay away and avoid trouble. When schools do intervene, bullies are usually criticized or warned and may be expelled. If the harm to the victim is severe, the parents of the bullies may pay money to settle the matter, leading these bullied children to believe that money and connections can solve any problem. In China, the practice of bribing witnesses, as in this case, is very common. Many Chinese people have expressed strong support for the sentences handed down in the United States to the three main perpetrators. Some believe that the sentences were too lenient and that the torture charges should not have been dropped. Their attitudes reflect a sense of admiration and regret that China still has no legal restrictions on school bullying, just as it has no laws against animal cruelty and the consumption of dog meat. When I was in high school, a girl from the same school who was a year below me bullied me. One day, as I was getting ready to go home, she and some other girls caught me in the schoolyard. She slapped my face and then kicked me in the stomach as I fell. Many years have passed, but I still vividly remember that sunny afternoon. Other students passing by just walked by without stopping her, and no one went to tell the teachers. The reason she attacked me was because she thought I gave her an unfriendly look when we passed face to face. To be honest, I knew that this bully had previously attacked 2 other girls in my class, so I didn't give her a nice look when I saw her. After the attack, I was angry for a long time, but I never thought about telling the teachers or my parents because I heard that her family had connections at the school. Looking back now, I realized that I didn't trust the school, and I felt a certain fear because of their supposed connections. After that, I often got into arguments with teachers, perhaps as a way to vent my frustration. Years later, my best friend and I ran into a male classmate from high school. As we talked about our school days, I mentioned the incident. I was completely surprised when he said, "Why did the bully pick on you instead of your friend?" This victim-blaming attitude made me feel sick. The 3 minor offenders received sentences of less than 1 year and will not be deported upon completion of their sentences. In addition, 6 suspects escaped the legal consequences and returned to China to continue their prosperous lives. Their parents may even send them to Australia, Singapore, or Thailand to study. Although the 3 main perpetrators received deserved punishment, with good behavior, they could probably have their sentences reduced and continue to live carefree lives after their release, relying on their family's wealth. For the victims, the harm they have suffered will never go away. The memories of the harm may be temporarily suppressed, but once triggered, they'll find that it's never really gone. What do you think of this case? Please share your opinions and points of view in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel.